So, good evening, chaps. Back in person. How about that?
Yes, wow. Very good.
Around the table.
Almost forgot what you guys look like.
Oh, it's a bit scary. Look at your hair. Nice. I'm talking.
Dear, we're joined by someone else. Who's this? Who are you?
I'm Phil.
That sounded a bit pedo-like.
No, I've got a big red thing pointed now.
We should
put it away.
We should point out to people listening at home that we've got our good friend Phil Farrell with us, who's one of the boys from down on the coast here, isn't it? Fellow Porsche owner. Phil is our latest panellist for Road to Redline, with an interesting ownership history to boot of Porsche and otherwise. There's some
all sorts
some
of
Bavarian automotive persuasion in there as well, and even a Triumph.
I've never actually owned a Triumph.
No.
The family have owned Triumphs.
Excellent.
I've yet to own my own Sprint. So
Excellent.
I've probably given it away which one we're talking about.
Yeah, it will form our conversation a little later on guilty pleasures. It was Andy
I'm
that
not
said
guilty.
well, this is it. It was Andy that said it's a guilty pleasure. I'm not sure if it is for you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was the right title, but I think we'll go with it. You're proud about it, yeah. Well, we'll come on to that later. Yeah.
So, it's a bit of a first for us in our first kind of post-lockdown, essentially, like meet up in person. We are socially distanced, etc. But we should get on with the show today, shall we?
Let's do it.
Crack on.
So, Phil, before we get on to other stuff, including guilty pleasures, we do want to find out a little bit more about you and introduce you to everybody at home. So can you start, please, by telling us what's in the garage currently, including an imminent swap, because you're off tomorrow to swap cars?
Yeah, they're a bit spread out at the moment. But if we say that stuff that I own is the garage for now, I have a 996 C4 that is about to get traded tomorrow.
So are you exiting the 996 club?
I am, unfortunately.
Why, unfortunately?
Because I like the 996, and I like the fact that it's not liked as well as it probably should be. Having owned one now.
But you didn't like it enough to keep it?
Joe's getting the dicks in.
Ouch.
Oh, Lee's not about.
Yeah. I think
he's come back to defend himself.
Yeah. What's happened there?
We were ganging up on Phil about 996s.
Bag of
Why
shit.
Why is he getting rid of it? But he says he really liked it, but he didn't. But he did.
I think if it had bought the right one, I think I went for a narrow-bodied C4.
Oh, you like a fat ass?
And I do like a fat-bottomed girl, yeah. Sorry, Lindsay.
It's all right. He had a beer as well.
My wife's not listened to one of these yet.
Luckily.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that beer down now. So I think if it had bought the right one and probably had it checked properly, as everyone would say that you should do.
Yeah. Our lesson
So,
learned.
I bought the car over the phone, got the train to Croydon. And
that's where it all went wrong, didn't it? Buying from Croydon.
Croydon's lovely, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, it was.
I worked there for years. It was a
this particular bit was quite nice.
Maybe it's all changed.
Shout out to all our Croydon listeners.
Howdy, Croydon listeners. I'm glad it's turned around.
I reckon Phil should give us the first month rundown of 996 ownership.
Well,
that
was probably
give us the short version.
The first 2 hours is probably enough.
Yeah, come on, let's hear it.
So I think when was it? I think it was probably
at Purley.
It was either it was either December or January. It was quite. Anyway,
yeah, it was wintry. Wasn't it?
Set the scene. Cold and wet.
Shouldn't have been, but ended up being.
Right.
So go and pick the car up, blind effectively. I think when the guy was wiping the cobwebs off the car, when he got it out of the garage, it probably should have started ringing alarm bells. But anyway, we were committed 2 feet by then. So literally within 10 minutes or so, both the window regulators had failed, and it had started raining. So I was getting a bath royally. I didn't know that my wallet was also going to get a bath quite soon. So So I'm sat there literally getting soaked, going around the M25. The next thing is that there's a lorry in front of me. I can see this boulder coming off the back of this boulder. When I say a boulder, about a golf ball size. It looked like a boulder in the air, though. And, at that point, I've got two options. I either, try and outrun it and it lands on the roof, or I slow down, it lands on the bonnet, or I just let it hit the windscreen. So I let it hit the windscreen, and then basically the windscreen just went. So I'm sat there getting wet.
Smashed windscreen.
With a smashed windscreen. I hope this goes out after the said car.
Yeah, we'll delay it for you, don't worry.
Yeah. I'm driving across the South Downs then. And the car was, there was knocking from all sides of the car.
Welcome to 996 ownership, I'd say there, mate.
Well, do you know what it was? The tyres, I think when we plugged them in, I think one of them had 13 PSI in it.
Really?
And they were knackered.
Here's what I found.
Idiot.
Yeah. You should have got an inspection.
That was Google listening. Yeah. What did she say? Yeah, she has said idiot.
Yeah.
Within 2 days, obviously I need to get the window regulators sorted.
To be honest, Phil, even then, like your first drive of any car purchase, especially something like that, is meant to be special.
Yeah.
And you've kind of been, shat on from a great height, really, in terms of just like, the windows, the windscreen. You're already kind of pulling up to your drive and thinking, it's not the kind of the romance I was expecting.
Yeah, I nearly got divorced as I pulled up onto the drive, actually, because it was late at night. Obviously, I'd not been able to break any speed records getting back. So it was just going dark. It was chucking it down. My parents were visiting us for the weekend, so they'd just turned up. Lindsay, they were like, "Oh, hi." I was like, "Somebody get me a car cover." My wife was like, "You've been really rude to your parents." I'm just like, she said, "Just wind the windows up." Then I was like, "You don't think I've tried to do that?" So anyway, a few crosswords. We managed to find an old Cayman 981 cover, which went over the 996. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It was just probably the single worst car pickup ever.
I'm surprised you persevered with it this long.
Yeah. Have you pointed out? I've had to go and chuck the dog indoors. But have you pointed out the fact that what you kind of stepped out of previously in Porsche circles in the GT3?
No.
Right. Yeah. Because that is.
I think that's probably some of the reason I've not quite got on with the 996. I think I've probably gone too far.
Yeah.
The other way, in that you go from the absolute pinnacle of what Porsche currently building to basically the most unloved end of the 911.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. It's that GT3. It's the best engine in a road car ever. It's a brand new car, and you've gone something that's 22 years old or 20 years old, and kind of universally chastised among enthusiasts. It's a a big step.
You should probably give us a quick rundown of the GT3 because we didn't touch on that. So you went. It was what year was it? The GT3.
It was a Gen 2. It's 2017.
Yeah. So Gen 2 car.
Yeah, manual, ceramics,
4 litre,
club sport.
Yeah.
Basically everything you would want, even the half folding seats rather than the full bucket seats. And it was just an absolute dream. And house purchase meant that.
Be sensible.
I had to let go of it, which, given that they're now charging towards 100k, which I think is where they'll end up.
Might have done you a favour.
I think I got out of it at the right time, luckily. I will have another one as soon as I can physically make the maths work.
But going on to the next one, I suppose, which is tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah. Gen 1 GTS 991.
Nice choice.
So 996, obviously, we've not met a happy ending with that. It didn't quite work out.
No, and we should probably finish that actually. That on paper, the car was fantastic. It's 44,000 miles, full service history, and X51 pack, M30 suspension, sports exhaust. What's that?
I don't want to buy it, Phil. It's fine.
and now it's running. And now it's running like a peach.
Yeah.
So the next owner's going to get.
It genuinely is running like a. I mean, bar it needs another windscreen. It is running like a peach. I mean, it's a great car. I think just given what my brain compares it to, and what I've been through, and what I've had to spend on it to get it to that point.
$6,000 in bills, if you don't mind saying.
Yeah.
Or, straight off the bat.
What did the car cost up front? Roughly,
I think I paid 16.5 for it.
Okay, so you're in for
22.
22.
Yeah,
but that was a fully sorted car by the end of 22.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's IMS, RMS, clutch, flywheel.
Yeah,
all the big ticket stuff.
Did we do discs? I think we might have done something on the brakes. I think, has it got 3 radiators on it? Has the X51 got one?
X51 is 3, yeah.
Yeah, so it's had 3 radiators.
So if you take a step back from the whole
tires.
experience, if you take a step back from it, you can have 911 ownership, completely done, sorted, in a really nice low mileage car for 22 grand. Yeah, it's actually an amazing entry, isn't it?
I'd still say it's a lot of money.
Yeah?
I think in a couple of years' time, if you were to hold on to it, I think in a couple of years' time, you'd probably be laughing. Because the history of it's interesting, isn't it? Because it come out of Work 1, which is Porsche exclusive, So,
yeah, we've never, well, I've not kept it long enough for us to be able to really get to the bottom of that one.
Probably ex-military.
Yeah, this is the thing, but it's interesting in so much as it's gone back into Works 1 for its first 2 services.
Okay.
So it's not like it's come out into the main dealer network. So even if it was in Stuttgart, presumably there's a Porsche dealer in Stuttgart that would have looked after it.
Mine was the same. Mine for the first.
We've seen the pictures of yours, haven't we?
Yeah. But yours is left-hand drive.
Mine's left-hand drive.
Right-hand drive.
So what was there a right-hand demonstrator fleet?
I doubt it. It's either ex-military, but there is a specific country code for that. But yours is C16, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a UK car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't they used to be able to order C16 cars on like the military bases in Germany and then ship them back?
Yeah, you could, to be fair. You could.
Yeah.
But I have never seen, this is what I will say, I have never seen an X51 pack on a narrow-bodied 996. They've always been, you have the X50 on the turbo, and then you have X51 on the C4S, which is fairly common.
Yeah.
But I've never seen on a narrow body an X51, which kind of, again, it just points to that quirky.
Am I making a mistake tomorrow?
No,
because we've seen how unhappy you've been kind of driving the car, and as we know, these cars, it's an emotional experience, isn't it? The buying and ownership experience of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean that is the, and we could talk about how I actually got into Porsche as a brand in a bit, because I mean that's quite interesting in itself. In that, like you sort of alluded to earlier on, I'm. If I'm honest, probably I lean towards the M car side of things as well as Porsche.
Yeah.
And my first experience of Porsche was my better half has always liked the Cayenne. And we were out one Sunday afternoon in November or something like that in our wellies, in our waterproofs. And we were just poking around this Cayenne black GTS, as it happens, at Porsche Wilmslow. And this is 6:10 at night, pitch black. And one of the sales guys just came out and said, do you want to have a look at it? I mean, literally, we couldn't have looked more unlike what you would expect customers of a Porsche dealership to look like at the time. And
the scallies.
But yeah.
This is a Cayenne.
So this is a Cayenne. I don't know the numbering of them, but the previous the previous generation Cayenne, whatever it was, jet black metallic. It's basically a Cayenne version of what I'm picking up tomorrow, I guess.
See, I thought you started in the Cayman Club.
Well, So we went looking at, this is what normally happens in a car dealership. When Lindsay goes looking for a car, I walk out with one. So anyway, Anthony invited us in, made us a coffee. I mean, this is Sunday night. And we got chatting, and better half, it's all about the numbers. And when he started quoting a couple of monthlies at us, she was like, I don't want it that much. But of course, by that point, I'd decided I was having a Porsche, come what may, out of that place. So
just because you liked him.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I am guilty of that. I buy the salesman sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is their job ultimately. So they obviously do a job on me.
How many cars has the last salesman sold? You know?
Oh well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He does a reasonable job of getting me out of them as well. To be fair to him,
right, and, looks after you.
Yeah. But
that is our friendly Porsche buyer we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. But I actually, I think probably the Gen 1 GTS. So this is 2016. So I think maybe the Gen 2 991 had just come out. Yeah, because I remember having a conversation about rear axle steer, which wasn't on the Gen 1 cars, was it?
It was on Gen 1s.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Right. I remember there being a sapphire blue Targa GTS there. And I was just like, I'm having that car. It was just unreal. And he asked me all the questions about, current cars. And I was like, everything I'd had was a performance 4-door saloon car, because it goes back to when I used to watch the British Touring Car Championships on a Sunday afternoon. Everything was, it was a Vauxhall Cavalier, or it would be an E36 probably.
Yeah.
Back then, BMW. And just
Volvo Estates.
Yeah, the V70, yeah. V5 was it?
Well, no, it'd be 850s, wouldn't it? Then.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not that old.
Lovely looking.
Right.
Yeah. But everything I'd had. So this was my first foray into a 2-door true sports car, if you like, something that started off as a sports car rather than a, how do you put it, Lee? A zooped up 3 Series.
Yeah. 5 doors with a big engine.
Yeah.
Badge on it.
Yeah. So he taught me out of this Targa, which must have been 75, 80 grand's worth of car at the time, maybe. And he said, look, if this is the first time you're in a Porsche, I've got this Cayman S, so it'll be the 3.4, I think, 987. But it had a history file, 2 inches thick.
987?
Yeah. And basalt black, all the toys on it, all the seats and the nav, and like a luxury car, but 2 doors. But the sound of it, when I switched it on, was just like...
Sold you.
Yeah, and I still buy the cars now on sound.
So where'd you go after that then? 987, what was the next
So
one?
the 987, so I think the 987 went, and I got an F80 M3.
Okay.
Because I was...
Were you missing 4 doors?
No, I actually went looking at a, when the M2 came out, there was one in BMW Wilmslow, and it was this point where the waiting list was 18 months long, and they had a mineral white one with all the carbon bits on it, and it looked
like it gone through Halfords?
No. They'd
I love the digs.
He's just jabbing me.
Yeah.
We should say that
if it was only less than 2 meters away.
Social distancing is safe.
Yeah.
And there was this mineral white M2 there, all the M Performance bits, genuine M Performance bits on it. But I think it was coming out at something like 65 grand by the time they put all the bits on it. The sort of
expensive sales rep's car, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and especially the Generation 1 M2 was far more like a 2 Series than the second go they had at it, when they put all the proper M bulges on it and all the proper Halford stuff.
But that car was revered, was it not, like critically by journalists and whatnot?
Yeah. And I've to this day I've not actually driven one, but I've never heard anyone really saying a bad thing about either of them. But it just so happened in the showroom there was a bright orange F80 M3 sat behind it, and it sort of put the Zooped Up 2 Series into perspective, really. And I came out of the Cayman into that. I thought that car was immense. I think that stayed a year. and then
it's quite a time, isn't it, for you?
that is a long time actually. And then I chopped that one in for more or less the same reason as I'm moving the Aston on, in that it's a little bit too aggressive and quick for wanting to go out on a Sunday morning down B roads. It sort of slingshots you from corner to corner, and then you fight your way around the corner, and then it slingshots you to the next one. Whereas, like, if it had still been in the Cayman, you can rev one of those out and enjoy the sound and the experience. And you can sort of come back a couple of hours later having actually had a good drive rather than a fight with your car. Don't get me wrong, it's difficult to say there's really that many bad cars, is it? I mean, they're all so well made these days at the performance end of any make, that you're going to have fun, but it's just which particular bit of that you want to tap into as an individual, I guess.
So what was after the M3?
So the M3, I finally ticked a bucket list car off, and I got an E46 M3 CS.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that car would be, if I had to sell everything else, that car would still be on the driveway.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's saying something.
And it's just got everything. The colour is fantastic. I think the CSL alloys on that car, that CSL alloy is probably one of the nicest looking wheels, I think, on any car. Obviously personal views, but it's
I would agree with you, mate. I really would.
It's and it's just got enough of a sharper edge on it over the standard E46 that it's the car they should have made in the first place.
Okay, yeah.
Really. The steering's better, the brakes are loads better than the standard E46. And it's got the Alcantara stuff in it, which takes a bit of looking after, but if you do it, it just it's the first thing you connect to in a car, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It's been a nice place to be, don't you? I think.
Yeah. And all right, the nav's a bit dated now, but when you've got that sort of race-derived engine in front of you,
they scream, don't they?
Yeah, it's and again, that's a low mileage one. Got it from a respected dealer in Sussex, and that all happened really quickly. But there were only 233 of those cars to start off with. Probably a bit fewer now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all a bit of a quick deal on that one.
So why did that go?
That I've still got that. Well, I've had that twice now.
Oh, that's the one that you've got now. The one
so
that you got back.
So I actually, in a moment of madness, again talking about buying sound, I I flirted with the idea of buying a 996 turbo at one point, mainly because I got on really well with the sales guy at Porsche Bournemouth.
Bit of man love again.
Yeah, well, Mark's brilliant. Yeah, but I never really got on with the turbo's a fast car, but there's something about the sound of it that just didn't. You know, the speedo's going around at one.
It's all a bit muted, isn't it?
But it felt, and I'm sure if you put something after,
that's what we were talking about. The new 992 sort of changes that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For the first time, really.
It's just the turbo with the sports exhaust on it. Yeah. Sounded good on the video.
It was lovely, but it was exactly what we were saying. It was the first kind of turbo where you felt, especially in the water-cooled era, where you think, that's what a soundtrack. I don't mind the 997 Turbo S. I'm adamant that's louder than a turbo, and it just sounds like it's inhaling the entire atmosphere. Yeah. But otherwise, that is a chief criticism with a water-cooled turbo, is they are quiet, which you're, adhering to in what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, actually, I drove a 997 turbo straight off the back. Okay. So it was 996, can't get on with that. Okay, well, let's try the 997 then. Because I think at the time, the 996 turbo I was looking at was a one-owner car supplied by Porsche Bournemouth, only ever serviced by Porsche Bournemouth.
Manual or tip?
Tip.
Okay, it does make such difference between manual and tip.
Well, it drove like an well, it is an automatic, isn't it? And it felt like I was driving a very, very fast two-door automatic car. And when you're coming out of, say, a modern day BMW 330D that will probably, until the top end, probably in a straight line wipe the floor with it. It didn't feel that fast either. Yeah. So I was like, I've got no sound, I've got no gear stick, and it doesn't feel that quick. I'm just like, and I'm still about to pay 50 grand for it, and it didn't work on any level. So the 997 was a bit better, but to be honest, it wasn't enough of a step up to justify it. And just flippant comment, he said, well, we've got that Cayman 981 GTS there.
Is this at the time, Phil, when you had the CS? So you've gone F80?
Yeah, I've got CS. So the F80's gone.
Right, okay.
The CS has come in.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was buying another car at that point.
Well, I've not known you that long, but that seems to be that seems to be happening quite a lot. I don't know why, but
yeah. Well, I think there was an element to me that I'd sort of bought into the Porsche brand so heavily with the original Cayman that I was looking for any excuse to get the badge back on the drive. But at the time, I couldn't make the money work. So we drove this Cayman GTS down the road, and within 200 meters, I was like, I'm having this car.
On the sound again.
On the sound they are incredible.
Yeah.
And that's just on standard. You put it in sport and open the exhaust up, and it's popping and crackling. I was 200 meters down the right. I was just having this, and it was again. I bought the wrong car because I was so eager to get into the car and enjoy the drive that I forgot that I wanted the GTS interior pack on it. I forgot that I wanted Carmine Red, and I forgot that I wanted the anthracite black wheels. So I ended up with the turbo wheels. Still a stunning looking car, and very lucky to have owned it. But I compromised because I was so eager to get and enjoy that sound. But I actually traded the CS in for that. I was that eager to, and I just couldn't. I couldn't make the money work at the time. So the Cayman, I'm not even sure. It becomes a bit of a blur after that. Actually, the last 2 or 3 years.
That's when I first met you, was with the GTS. And
that was it. Yeah.
Saying that you first foray into like Porsche sports cars and whatnot.
Yeah.
And very impressed by it. And then you've gone from this 981 GTS, amazing car, into a 991 Gen 2 GT3 when they'd not been out long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's massive step up, massive.
Yeah. It was just. I don't know whether you call it a perfect storm or not. Things sort of went well very quickly. And we sold our house up in Manchester and moved down south, even though I'm still living in Manchester for certain purposes. And, I ever since I'd seen, because I think that same day, when we were in Wimslow, I think there was a lizard green GT3 RS in the showroom, and they just sit there and they literally do wink at you. So I'd always had this, I'm going to have a GT3 one day. And it just so happened that at the time we could afford to do it. We were sort of still moving down south. And my wife just said, look, if it comes to the point where it has to go so that we can buy a house, then it has to go at that point, whether that's 1 month, 6 months, 6 years.
She's very understanding, isn't she?
She is publicly.
So does she only bruise below the belt?
Yeah. Less so sometimes, privately, I guess. And rightfully so, I must admit. Yeah. But, and literally this one came up again. I think this was the 1st of December, or 30th of November. I think it was I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning.
Perfect timing.
I was sat at work just playing on the Porsche website as you do, and this Carmine Red GT3, with Club Sport, the works popped up. I showed it Lindsay, and she was like, "Well, that is the car I've seen you spec up a million times. So just if you can make the numbers work, just get it and get it done with." And I think I was up in Solihull 5 hours later with a deposit down on it. And I went up a week later, drove it home. So it must have been the 2nd of December. It only managed to nearly kill me once on the way I'm weirdly in a straight line.
So did you take someone else's build slot on that, or
No, it was I think it was it a year old?
Okay, so it's Porsche approved from a Porsche dealer.
Yeah. So somebody had made a bit of, obviously fallen on hard times, as these people do on such a regular basis. But it's one of those things. How it came to be there is not really my problem. But it just literally had everything on it.
Yeah.
And I had it 7 months and an absolute blast in it. I did the probably the highlight was that 991 forum, Porsche Club GB forum track day we did at CDT training at Millbrook.
Yeah. And
it just opened my eyes up to what that car could do and really how wasted they are on the road.
Yeah.
You just can't even scratch the surface of what that car can do on a public road and, stand any chance of keeping your license. Having said that, I genuinely think they're soft enough, driven in the right way to be able to use them daily. Yeah. And I think these ones that sit there with 500 miles on them, just somebody's missing out on such a great bit of life they could be living.
Yeah, true.
But having said that, on the flip side of it, it also means that when I buy another one in a couple of years' time, I'll probably be able to get a 2,000 mile example.
That's it, yeah. Sometimes you sort of deride the people that have them in the garage, but then you think, when you actually come to buy one of those in many years' time, you're like, thank you.
You're lying in bed at night just thinking someone's keeping that car warm for me right now.
Yeah.
Lovely jubbly.
Yeah. So out of all of those, I think you've said the highlight on the GT3, but which car really hits it for you? You just had to have one for the rest of your life.
I was going to say CS, isn't he?
It'd be a tough one between the CS and the GT3. I think for different reasons as well. I think there's something just special about an E46 to me, but it's just a personal thing. I think
it's because if we carve your head off, you'd actually look down at it like a piece of rock, and there'd be the blue two blue segments and the white.
Yeah, they probably would, because I think like when I was growing up, we didn't have BMWs, and a BMW was sort of like growing up, I wanted to be a chartered accountant. I wanted to own a BMW 320i.
Brilliant.
So it was, to me, it was always an aspirational thing, and I think that's really where BMW is for me. I mean, it's like I've got an X5 as a daily driver that I love to bits. It's my second go at an X5, and this time I went all out on the options list, and I bought the car that I wanted. And I can't see it going anywhere.
So you've got in the GT3. You've had good fun in the GT3 for several months. Out of the GT3, a house extension development was born. We've got into the 996 to keep you busy, keep you in the seat for now.
Give you something to spend some money on.
Yeah. Aston Martin's come
Didn't go
around.
to plan.
Mainly because Carl took you for lunch and has evidently popped something in your Bucks Fears during lunch. So that's fine. So tomorrow you are ditching that car and you are getting into a new Porsche or a new Porsche.
New to me Porsche.
Yes.
So I'm getting a Generation 1 991 GTS.
Excellent choice.
I'm excited.
One of my favourites, that is.
Yeah.
I got away.
Yeah, it's... I have to say I've never driven one yet.
It's going blind.
but I mean...
What happened last time you did that?
Well...
Take your road back with you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's got the pan roof, so maybe we'll have a whole lot of different...
It's all right, it's going to be sunny tomorrow, you'll be fine.
Well, tomorrow's going to be great, isn't it? You
were looking at Gen 1 and Gen 2, weren't you? GTS.
Yeah. I think it's just boils down to the sound. I mean, the Generation 2 car is a fantastic car. I think the tech is a move on, but I think we've sort of plateaued with car tech now.
A modern car's a modern car almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that nav that I had in the Cayman GTS, which was 2015, which this Gen 1 911, does everything you would need it to do. You've still got the little screen in the main cluster, and the nav's great, the sound's great. It just works. Maybe I might stick Apple CarPlay in it just because.
That is a cracking upgrade.
It's a worthy upgrade, I'd say.
Yeah. It does involve taking the PCM to pieces, though. It's not a...
Send Phil to the auto amateur video.
Yeah.
You don't realise how many pieces of dash you've got to come out for the bit to go in, but I'm sure you can enlist someone to do that.
I think it's a worthy upgrade there. Otherwise, I would have a Gen 1 over a Gen 2. I have to say, I know this is about me, this is your story, but I think you've made the right move.
Well, I mean, we sort of chatted it through, because, there's obviously plenty of decisions to be made, but I think given how I've been excited about other cars, I mean, to me, the GT3 it's all about the sound. I mean, you can drive one of those, again, not particularly quickly, but it sounds fantastic at 4,500 RPM doing 45 miles an hour in second gear. The only thing the GT3 doesn't do is it doesn't really pop and crackle, which I
The GTS does.
Well, so I'm looking.
You'll be in for a treat tomorrow. I think you're going to pick that up, and you can be smiling ear to ear all the way home.
Yeah, I think from what I've, and of course, the cars are new enough that you can go on YouTube, and you can get videos with good sound quality.
Yeah. See all the reviews where they came out.
Yeah, and it's to an extent. I'm buying it from an OPC. I don't expect any issues with it.
So it's coming from an OPC. If it was a Porsche main dealer as opposed to an indie.
Yeah.
What's the? I mean, now we're sort of coming out post lockdown. What's the procedure for picking up a car these days? Well,
apparently he's going to launch a set of keys at me at 20 meters, open the door and show it me. The door, that is. But it needs must. Yeah. It's I know that all the regular rigorous standards that an OPC has to sell a car by have been performed. I mean,
so if you go main dealer, you're getting 2 years warranty as standard on
these cars? Yeah, I'm getting a bit more than that on this one.
Oh,
it's got a warranty out till May 2023.
How does that work?
I don't know, but I haven't asked.
You'll have it.
Chances of me still having it then, but anyway.
Good for the next deal, next person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the nice thing about Porsche warranty, actually, isn't it? Without sort of, I think if you sell it privately, you can transfer it. I think if you sell it back into a main dealer, they can reuse it. So supposedly they ought to give you a bit more for your car, therefore, I suppose.
So give us the short rundown of what's tomorrow. What's spec-wise, what colour is it?
Wings and tings.
Yes, yeah. So it's got two wings. So it's got the, you'll correct me, Aero Cup kit.
Aero Kit Cup.
Kit, yeah, whatever. So to me, that when I saw that was like sold.
Halford?
Yeah. Maybe I should buy some Halford shares. So it's jet black metallic. So my X5's carbon black, which is like a black with a blue fleck in it. From what I've seen of jet black metallic before, it's a similar sort of, it looks very black and then it can look sort of a bluey sort of hue. GTS interior pack, very important. Black wheels.
What does that give you?
So it gives you lots of Alcantara.
Okay.
And contrast stitching.
Yeah.
In carmine red, which is
your favourite
There
colour.
we go.
Yeah.
And GTS in the headrest. Oh no, you get that anyway. Actually, don't you?
Yeah.
You get coloured GTS in the headrest, and because I'm really geeking out on this stuff at the moment, you actually get a coloured pinstripe on your seatbelt.
Yeah, you do. That's beautiful.
All in the detail.
Yeah. And a carmine red centre dial.
Oh, that is right up your Strasser, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, it's got the carbon inlay pack.
Yeah.
So it's basically the GT3 that had, without the bucket seats. But to be fair, they used to worry me more than anything else because I never wanted to scratch them getting in and out of them. So other than that, I mean, it's just GTS, isn't it? So it's got... the only other thing is it's got the pan roof. I call it pan roof. I had too many Audis. What's it? The glass sunroof.
Yeah.
Well, they're all glass, aren't they? But... so I think between jet black, the sunroof, sliding back, and then the aero kit. I think it'll look every bit the mini GT3 that I want.
It's a gap between the Carrera S and the GT3. I would say it's more towards the Carrera S end of the spectrum than outright GT, but there's definitely more theatre, as Joe will attest to. More theatre, throttle response is a little bit sharper. It's just everything's turned up a notch over a Carrera S, and noticeably so. And again, the Gen 1 over the Gen 2 naturally aspirated engine, I think that kind of speaks for itself, really.
Yeah.
You know, and with that, a much better soundtrack. Won't pop and bang as much as a turbo car, I'm afraid, but the sound is more genuine.
Well, I was just, as you were saying that, I was just thinking I think genuine's the word, in that I think the turbocharged cars are a bit too far. They're a bit forced in terms of, the amount of
cars are like that now, aren't they? There's too much pops and bangs going on.
Well, they used to be.
Extent.
Yeah, having said that, my wife's on her second S3 now.
Yeah. And
the first one was a 2017 car, and that thing used to pop and crackle, and a fantastic soundtrack actually for a 4-cylinder turbocharged 2-litre. This new one, 19 plate that we've got, has got the petrol particulate filter on it.
Oh yeah, so
and it has ruined that car.
Yeah.
To the point that I'm probably going to try and stick an Audi 2017 exhaust on it, and get rid of the filters. I think I've heard a Generation 2 GT3 RS, I think it was, that's got the particulate filters in it, and that still sounded great, but I don't think it sounded as good as the Generation 1 car.
Yeah, agreed.
But you've got to play by the rules, haven't you? And it just, I think the nice thing about the Porsches is that you can go and buy a 2015 car, and you're not buying an old car. You've still got all the toys in it. It sounds the nuts. And you've got a 2-year warranty sat behind. All right, you're obviously going to pay a little bit more going through OPC, but you've got that comfort. And I've been at the other end of the spectrum where I've bought a car and ended up with a big bill. And it actually makes the OPC route look quite good value at that point.
I think you've got a cracking car coming there. Yeah, interested to see what you think of it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can't wait.
So long as it's okay with you, we'll put some pictures up on our Road to Redline Instagram page when you've collected the car. To share that, and maybe a couple of cars from what you've had previously.
Yeah.
And allow the CS on there, I think, will we?
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, they're cracking cars, aren't they? So yeah, if you're cool with that, we'd
absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Right, we're doing guilty pleasures, are we?
Sorry.
All right, you go for it.
Guilty pleasures.
You've got the notes up.
Yeah.
Fair one. I've not noted them at all evening. But it's been great because the conversation's flowed. Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure we've covered off everything we wanted to grill.
Well, let's face it, we've got enough cars to talk about, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, guilty pleasures, this is what I wrote as a little sort of, what is guilty pleasures? And I said, these are the cars that are on your list. Your list. Mm-hmm. I think we've all got a list, haven't we?
Little black book.
But they're the ones that
you don't show anyone.
Yeah. They're the ones that if you were going on to Auto Trader to look for a new car, you'd look at, but you wouldn't look at them if your mate was looking over your shoulder or your partner was looking over the shoulder, because they would just say, why?
Yeah. So
I'm sure we all got those.
1 a.m. Saturday morning, you're 3 whiskies deep and you're just giving it the old, go on then, let's have a look.
Yeah. So
on Auto Trader.
And what inspired this was Phil. Phil's got what I would say is a guilty pleasure. He obviously doesn't think so.
No, I'm proud of it.
He's proud of it. But what is it? Go on.
Triumph cars, in particular, Triumph Dolomites.
Where's that come from?
So it was when we were growing up. I don't even really know the reason. I'd have to ask my parents. We seem to always have a Triumph Dolomite at some point. And invariably being Triumph Dolomites, they ended up in various bits of the house.
In the kitchen.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my earliest memories of cars really are like Sunday lunchtime. Dad would be cleaning a cylinder head in the sink while Mum's carving the chicken. Like, there'd be the odd nut in your chicken leg, and
sounds just like a Triumph to me.
Yeah,
they all did that, didn't they?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's so I can't remember which way around it. I think part of the head's steel and I think the bolts are steel and the head's aluminium, maybe. But either way, the two things aren't compatible when they start to corrode.
Yeah.
So I remember one Christmas, because I needed to keep them on the road as well. They weren't toys.
Yeah,
exactly. I remember my dad and my uncle welding heads onto these things so they could get something to get some purchase on them to get the nuts out of the head. And I just found it fascinating. I'm sure it was very stressful at the time, where you need your car running for Monday morning, and Sunday night you're welding nuts onto the bolts. But I think sort of seeing them in bits like that, and then seeing them run well, and obviously you could play with them as well. So you could mess about with the mixture on the carburetors, and you could physically make it run badly. And you could listen to a car running badly, and then you could sort that out and make it run spot on. You understand what the sound of the car, how that changes as a car's struggling, and how when it's running well.
It's the quintessential box car is the Triumph Dolomite. My dad had a couple actually.
Yeah,
and he's still got a TR. Is it the 6 with the lump in the bonnet?
Well, this is the one that I want to buy from the back of your dad's garage, isn't it?
Yeah, because he's got like the Surrey top, which is like the Triumph equivalent of Targa, isn't it, or whatever? Which is, I mean, that's a cool car.
So he's got a TR6?
Yeah.
I actually do like those.
Is it a 4 or 6 one with the lump in the bonnet? Because one does, and I don't know enough about them. But
I think it's a 6.
Bonnet, wire wheels, seriously cool car. But it's. I mean, I say it's a cool car. It's just in bits. It's a bag of shit.
Still,
it's one of those things where he says, "I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year." He'll never do it. But like cool car. But he's had a couple of Dolomites as well.
Or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think So there was the 1500, wasn't there? And then there was the 1850 HL. And then there was the Sprint, which was the one that we never had that I will have. And we saw one, didn't we, when we went to Haynes?
Yes, yeah.
A while back, and there was a British Racing Green Dolomite Sprint sat in there. So
that is the one.
That is the one, yeah.
Yeah. With green.
Yeah, British Racing Green.
Interior colour?
Whatever you can find at this stage, I'm sure, isn't it?
It's going to be mouldy anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I'd love to. I mean, you can still buy all the old Leyland bits, and I can't remember the name of the. Oh, it's got. I can't. There's
a TR Triumph specialist up in Chiswick that's still there.
Yeah,
that's been there for years.
Yeah, there's another company that bought all the old Leyland stock when I can't remember the name of them.
Moss or something like that.
Yeah, and so you can still do bits, and obviously there's specialists that can fabricate bits as well. I mean, I'd love to have one.
I think it's quite cool. It's kind of like fulfilling like a family ambition almost to get on the job.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking that it might not be a guilty pleasure.
No,
because it's not that shit actually. Yeah. So you've been the inspiration for this.
Well, I think isn't there a Triumph Dolomite series at Goodwood?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Enough said.
Oh God! Here we go. You should have seen his face when he said that. He was so smug, unbelievably smug.
Rocking up to Goodwood with his crash helmet and vinyl roof. Excellent. I bet it's really cool. I'm interested to hear what Andy, your guilty pleasures are, and you actually, Joe, because I'm sure you've had so many anyway.
That is funny. Yeah, I actually wrote out a little list, a bit like my car history.
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
And yes, there are a few that I've had, but I had to push mine into 2 lists.
I was going to say, is this episode going to be a 2-parter?
Yeah, I've put my first episode. First bit
Phil's retorted. It's
just seen was my schoolboy crushes.
Right. Yeah.
And there's some weird stuff on there. There's the normal things like an Opel Manta.
Linda Sard. Oh no, yeah.
Yeah. A Lancia Monte Carlo, but they're all quite cool, aren't they? They're not that shit. They're actually quite good. Do you reckon?
I don't know it.
That's all right. But then it turns a bit weird with. Do you remember a Matra Ranchco?
No.
Do you remember that?
No.
So that was like the first sort of MPV, like before
I mean, your
X5s
two
and all
whiskies
that.
in here at
Yeah,
this stage.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's all gone wrong
But
now, isn't it?
now, then I had a real sort of crazy, well, not crazy, but a real fascination with kit cars for quite a lot of years. Used to buy kit car magazines as well as all the custom car magazines. And there was a thing called a Hustler by William Towns. Everybody's looking blank.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to put some pictures up of this.
William Hustler.
It was designed by a guy called William
like
Towns.
Oh, in history.
Yeah, this sounds like porn, doesn't it?
William Hustler.
So he designed the Aston Martin Lagonda.
Right.
Which-
Of course he did.
Dick Hustler.
Do you know what the Lagonda looks like?
I do. Yeah.
So very sort of wedgy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this Hustler was a kit car.
Yeah.
That was based on a Mini.
Dick
I thought Phil
Hustler.
was getting up.
It doesn't even come up on Google.
Doesn't it? Oh,
Not with the filters on.
yeah.
You're smashing into Google, yeah. Dick Hustler, wedge shape. I don't think too much is going to come up before the watershed.
No. Okay. Yeah. So I'll describe what it is. It's a mini base. It's got mini subframes.
Yeah.
But then it's got this angular.
So no
It's basically
subframe.
just glass, and it was that was a weird thing. But yeah, I was into wedges as a kid. Well, that was all the thing.
Still on cars.
Yeah, still on cars. X19s, Austin Princess.
Oh,
my
and-
word.
But then going back to Phil, Triumph TR7s.
Yeah.
That was-
that I agree with.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the sort of guilty pleasures as a child or as a teenager.
Mm.
What fascinations did you guys have?
Sounds really like to hear what else is on this.
What's on list number 2? Because list number
So
1 was
is list
interesting.
2 modern or?
This I put later life yearnings.
Oh yeah, go on then.
And this is all weird, a little bit. None of it's that sort of exotic or anything like that. I've actually got one right now, which is my Audi A2. That's a weird yearning.
And do you know what? I think that's quite a cool car. We spoke about it before we on the pod.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I've
It's
kind
a
of
huge classic.
I've looked at those on Auto Trader many times in the past, and so been so close to buying one, but not got round to it. But yeah, I've got one, and it's not going anywhere. It's a good car.
Yeah. Cool
Honest-
shape, quick as well, isn't they? Like,
Yeah.
Well, they weigh nothing, no.
Yeah, absolutely well ahead of their time. Honda Insight, the first one. So this is the very sort of late 90s with the little.
Did you bring any pictures with you? Because we're all a bit lost.
You
at this
are, aren't
point.
you? All lost. So this has got the little spats on the rear wheels. It's like a little coupe, and it's got a hybrid system in it. And it like did 106 mile per gallon.
I know it, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a thing about those. First Honda Civic, I actually had one of those. It was hand painted.
So you'd like one again?
Hmm?
You'd like one again?
I don't know if I'd go one again.
Okay.
No, but it was
He's off the
on the
captain.
list. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
one of the
When
strange
you
ones.
say hand painted, you mean like with a brush or?
Yeah, with a brush. Yeah, I think I paid 175 quid for it. I'm quite sort of. You get a good car, then you get a shit car. Get a good car, get a shit car. That seems to
I know
be
that.
the way I go.
We're picking up the good one tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a shit car, but I kind of had a fascination with them, along with the Suzuki WizKid, similar shape to the Mark 1 Civic. Nobody knows this. Wow, you lot are so young, aren't you? Jesus Christ.
I was going to mention the age thing, but that's
Yeah.
fine, Andy. It's fine.
Then the other sort of thing that was Saabs. Got a real thing for Saabs.
Okay, yeah, go on.
What's a silver leader?
Oh, that was a kit car ad.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was.
Thought we'd gone a bit off piste then.
Yeah, that's a strange angular looking little thing again.
What's it like based on, like in terms of like engine?
What, the silver leader?
Yeah.
That's Ford engine.
Right.
Yeah, Chevette suspension. That was the one that I sold to somebody in the welding fell apart, and we spoke about it before.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you have indulged in your guilty pleasures.
Yeah, I
So-
have.
Some of them,
Yeah.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Good on you.
There's still some to knock off the list, but yeah. What have you two?
See, it's funny.
What's on your list?
When you messaged in the week and said, I've got a list.
Have you misinterpreted?
No, I just said, I'll come up with something 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can't really look past one car, I think, to be honest with you. Nothing else springs to mind amazingly, but like, guilty pleasure to me, how I interpret it is a car that you kind of want to own, but probably shouldn't. A bit like a fly to a light, you know, and it's you'll get burned or buzzed if you get near it. For me, it's the V8 Audi R8, the very first one. I don't know.
Really?
And there's just something about it.
I've only ever heard you say the opposite. That it's one of the worst cars in the world. That looks dated.
Exactly.
That is a bag of puff.
It looks dated. I remember parking my C4 S996 next to one at PEC Silverstone and thinking, well, I'm in the better car there in terms of like looks. The interior on them, I mean, they scratch really easy. It's really got poor plastics and finish inside. Yeah.
It looks like an Audi A4 on the inside.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, completely. And again, the
irony is, I could really see Lee in an R8.
That's the thing. I don't know. I just think.
Do you not think it's similar?
I nearly bought one.
Did you?
I believe that.
V8 or V10?
It was a Carl Special.
Ah, okay. Wow.
And I drove up to. Are we allowed to name drop on?
Of course you are.
Yeah. So it was one that Ashgoods had taken in as part of exchange. And I think I'd come out of the GT3 and I should have been just locked in a cell for a little while after that because I was bouncing around between. And Carl showed me this picture of this Phantom Black R8 manual original. I was like, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. I'm not going to, I think it was 30 grand or something. And I got it to the end of the driveway at Ashgoods and I was like, I can go back now.
Really?
Yeah. The gearbox was just,
you didn't like the gated gearbox?
Yeah. I just could not.
Did you test drive it, or did you?
Yeah,
and then drive it to the end of the
I drove up there and test drove it.
I thought I was throwing the keys to you. As you driving out, you just reversed it back.
Second thoughts.
But having said that, that car, like the B7 RS4, has probably got one of the best engines ever in a road car, I would say.
It's weird, isn't it? And it's nothing for me. There's like nothing about that car that makes too much sense. But I just think.
Have you been in one?
A friend used to have one. Yeah, driven it, and none of it makes sense. But I think I'd quite like to have a go in that. But then, like I say, that's with the whole guilty pleasure. The intention is you'll buy it and you'll get burned. It's you shouldn't do it.
That's how
it was definitely for me. It was one of those. I remember watching the original Audi R8 adverts. When they were all hand built.
Yeah.
It was like something from outer space.
It was a step change, wasn't it? It was a real step change.
Yeah, like a spaceship. It was 100% like proper supercar poster type stuff, wasn't it? It was for me, wasn't it? I was that sort of age where it came out and it was like, wow, that's unobtainable.
Yeah.
Mega money, supercar.
Yeah. It was the most kind of talked about and hyperbolic Audi since the Quattro.
Yeah.
Put them kind of right back up there. And it was, the supercar. It was at the time when Audi were kind of smashing them on, weren't they, at the time? And, Well,
if you rock up home with an Audi R8, that would kind of screw the 911 guy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. Like R8, Kyle Fortune, a journalist for T911, took us out in like the new one, and even then, you still feel exactly like the first one. It's a bit like my first supercar, and it kind of really lacks in substance
we went out
compared to a Porsche.
A Fandango one. Do you remember that V10?
Oh yes, we did. Yeah,
one.
drop top, wasn't it, at Millbrook?
And it was like, that was the latest and greatest. Couldn't say exactly other than it was a V10, whatever, but it was the super duper. Top spec.
V10 plus job. It was a bit like the Aston point and squirt.
Yeah.
It
was mega, but no part of me went, oh, I've got to have one.
Yeah.
My friend's recently bought one. He did buy a 997 and he was going to do a engine conversion on it because it had a blown engine. And he was going to put an LS in a 997. I think he was having a bit of a weird moment, but he just actually got rid of it. And then he bought an R8. And he's been slowly sort of changing it, what he's termed it as Club Sport. That's a little picture of the inside. So he's got pole positions inside.
Okay.
He's done lots of little tweaks and things to it.
They don't look out of place at all.
They don't, do they? Yeah. I don't know if they were actually a factory fit at any point.
Pole positions kind of suit most things, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they're out of a TT. So they came in as TT.
Those Audi wingback seats from that generation of Audis, RS and R, are other than those bucket seats that are in a GT3, are just the best seats you will ever sit in my.
That's really nice. And again, that's quite
I know him through Corrades many years ago. He did an R32 conversion into a Corrade. His name's James Renshaw. I'm sure a lot of people will probably know his name. So he likes to build a good car. Yeah, so he's put some BBS motorsport wheels on it. And I think he's going for that sort of club sport. I think he's all-in suspension on it. Yeah. And that's really turning me around to it.
Yeah.
Because he's good at finding the right bits and making it a nice car.
It's a bit like an A2 on steroids, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And squashed.
There's we've got here Joe's, but it's reminded me of another one, which is the R32 GTR, and it's a friend used to have one.
Yeah,
it's like ultimate Fast and Furious, isn't it? Which was like, that was my age growing up seeing all that, and I know they've all been owned by the wrong people. There's not a part on them that's from the factory. They're all, you drive it away as soon as you buy it, it's going to blow up.
Yeah,
even though the RB26 is an amazing engine, etc. But like cool.
Your guilty pleasures are on a different plane to mine. Mine are shitters, and yours are like actually quite decent cars, but you're not sure that you.
So greater risk then.
Yeah,
because that's the thing, and that's probably a lot of why you shouldn't do it really, and it completely nonsensical. That's the point. I think a lot of yours kind of makes sense, they're more try something new.
They're more shaming cars, I think.
You
feel shame driving it down the road.
You're just guilty telling other people about
it. That's it. Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
Oh God, I've owned a lot of weird stuff where people just don't get it. Because and they've been guilty pleasures that I've acted on, which is probably not a good thing. I don't know, what do you want? Guilty pleasures I've had or guilty pleasures that
still to come as well.
Still to come,
both.
Go on, okay, so does anyone know what a Volkswagen Fridlin is?
Yes.
Oh, I knew Andy would. These two looking very funny. Do you remember Postman Pat, the cartoon type thing? Remember, Postman Pat's van?
Yeah.
Well, Volkswagen basically made Postman Pat's van. They made it before Postman Pat did. It was a German post van.
They must have modelled it on Postman Pat.
It's literally it's a German post van. It looks like Postman Pat's van.
It takes Humpback Bridge really well, doesn't it?
It does. Sings a great song. Exactly that. But
you had one of those.
I did have one of those, and it was they're so difficult to find and so rare. They go for mega money, and one came up particularly cheap. It's Postman Pat's van.
It's Postman Pat's van.
Yeah,
I'm just showing that around.
Yeah. I mean, that's a particularly cool one.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was one that came up that was hanging. I mean, really beyond hanging. It had no floors. Literally no floors. Actually had no floors. We sort of pieced it back together, like it didn't ever quite make it on the road and blah, blah, blah. But that was pretty guilty. I don't know where the pleasure bit came in, but that's pretty bad. What other stuff? I tell you something I've never had but always wanted is an early Mini.
Really?
Yeah. I drove one once when I was about 17 for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm the same actually.
Thought it was pretty cool because it had this like wheel that was as big as the car in it. It's like a massive steering wheel,
tiny little pedals that you could.
Yeah, but everything else was miniature. I got guilty pleasure, small cars.
Yeah,
really small cars. Hence, I've had a couple of smart cars in my time.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with smart cars.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of universally accepted on this pod.
Well, I think it is now. I mean, a few years ago, it was a pretty easy thing to rib someone on if you had a smart car. It wasn't really a status symbol of any sort.
Yeah.
So what's taking your fancy at the moment? Because you're twitching to buy something else anyway at the moment in terms of toy.
Yeah. I feel like I want it to be Porsche, but then I don't know. I've looked at all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
Come on. Yeah, take us through the list. What's been late of late?
I quite fancy one of those Maserati. Is it Gran Turismo jobbies?
Oh, the thing that you leave the front lip on the floor wherever you take
that's
it.
The Grand Tourer type thing they do. That's
no idea.
No.
They make an insane noise.
Yeah, they make a really cool noise. Again, a lot of stuff I've been looking at is kind of it's gone down to that sort of 30k ish. Affordable supercars, which is a stupid thing because they're not affordable.
That's dangerous. The R8's in that category, isn't it? Yeah. And you go, you it's too tempting, but actually, that's going to be a big mistake. It's not.
That a lot of stuff falls in when it falls into that sort of 30-ish grand sort of bit. They suddenly they go on the radar as guilty pleasures. Where you go, before it was unobtainable. Suddenly now you're like, okay, that's almost within the realms of affordable. God knows what costs you to run it, but you just the acquisition of it is possible. Weird
for a limited time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Audi R8s, things like those, Maseratis, V8 Vantages, first gen. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You had one of those, though, didn't you?
yeah, I had one of those. Kept it for ages for me, 3 years. I mean, that's like
That's a lifetime.
literally a lifetime.
I really think those are going to become proper classic
I do, yeah,
because
I
the
mean,
look's
yeah,
just fantastic
yeah,
still.
amazing. And you can get to one of those now for mid-20s.
Yeah,
I mean, what a ridiculous car for the money. So all those sorts of cars they sort of fall into that category of going, okay, yeah, but they're terrible buys. They're going to cost you a fortune to run. They're going to fall apart. They're going to have horrendous service bills. They're going to bite. So that's probably bad. I'm trying to think what else. I've always wanted to have a go in or potentially own. What's the Audi estate they did? The really fast one. Was it RS4?
RS6.
RS6. It's an older one.
Well, they did both of them, didn't
What's
they?
the original one that was like
The RS4, is it like the B5 or
something like that? Yeah, I think
With a
I think
2.9 turbo.
That's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like, I mean, in its day, it was like just and they were all blue. They were in that blue.
Yeah.
Whatever the blue is. Someone know what colour it is.
No, Nargo, no. Murgalello. I can't say it. Begins with an M, I think.
But yeah, that's again pointless car, super fast estate car. Why do you want to do that? But I thought they were cool.
Yeah, you get a B7 though, wouldn't you? Now RS4. If you wanted a fast,
I don't really follow them. I don't follow them closely enough to know what they are.
what were those?
that was my first super car.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay. You've been there and done it.
yeah. I loved that car.
Okay.
Could not afford it at the time, but I did it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I went through I had a B7 RS4, an S5, an A3 turbo that wasn't an S3, so I think it was just a 2-litre turbo with all the options on it. Yeah, all within probably 18 months.
Wow. I suppose actually that cuts across a little bit to some of the Volkswagen stuff, because I mean I've always wanted an R32,
Yeah,
like an earlier one. Again, like no idea why.
it's the noise.
Yeah, like a Mark IV R32, I think. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the VR6 noise.
But it's cool. But is it cool? Now it just seems a bit.
I think when you see a mint one of those now, it's cool. Like I've started to see more and more Subaru WRX, WR1 on the road now, and they're absolutely mint. Whereas you roll back sort of 10 years, they'd fallen into that category where
butchered,
they were being butchered. But then it's a bit like the E46 M3 to an extent, in that you see a mint one on the road now, and they're just rolling class, aren't they? And I think the Subarus, the Nissans, are the same.
Yeah.
The GTRs.
Yeah.
And the Volkswagen. I mean, an R32. When you see those on the road, and you're in that sort of purpley colour, and they're just lowered enough, but they've not been messed around with. They're just class out the box.
Yeah. A lot of the early. I've never done anything Japanese really, and there is again this sort of weird attraction.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
I'd literally not a clue. But
I've had a few Japanese bits, and the engineering on them is very interesting compared to European cars.
yeah.
There's definitely, you can see the difference in the engineering. It's quite marked.
What was that one they did with the rotary engine?
RX-7.
RX-7, that was it.
Wankel engine.
Yeah, that always looked great, but I couldn't get my head around how the engine was working.
But then, after all that, they then made the RX-8 after that engine got slated. RX-8s were everywhere.
Yeah.
And then they
can
went
buy
down
those
to
for
like
pennies.
1,500 quid because it was not when. It was not if, it was when the engine went.
Yeah, and they were like £600 tax a year.
Yeah, just made no financial sense whatsoever. But I saw one the other day. That's the first RX-8 I've seen in literally years. I thought they'd all just been like, properly given up the ghost.
Yeah, there can't be many around now.
No.
Guy that would unit locally, and he used to engineer the RX-7 engines, and he basically, I think they come and they have like, it's like the size of a biscuit tin. They're really, really small. And obviously it's a rotary engine, which is confusing in itself. And he basically, I think they come with like 2 rotors is standard, and he basically would bolt a third rotor on to make a 3-rotor RX-7. But he was getting over 1,000 horsepower out of them.
Really? Yeah.
It just bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And apparently when they're built right, they
work, yeah.
bulletproof.
Yeah.
But they rev to like 20,000 RPM. I mean, they just scream. They absolutely scream. But so Japanese stuff. I think I literally wouldn't know where to start, but would like something at some point. Couldn't tell you what.
I think so. I just remembered quite a funny story with an RX-8.
Come on then, let's hear it.
What we just shared. I used to live in Bristol, and it was a really bad part of Bristol. And basically, what we'd done is a friend and I, we lived here at the time. We'd been on the piss the night before, and then we had a flat viewing the next day at this really swanky penthouse in Bristol. Whatever. We kept postponing the appointment because we were hanging. Eventually got to Bristol in like November at 6 o'clock. It's pitch black, and we've gone up, had a look around this penthouse, gone on this terrace, and gone, yeah, looks lovely, love it. Turns out it's in like one of the roughest estates in Britain, St Paul's Estate.
Yeah,
just off Cabot Circus. So to posh people, that's where we told people we were. But what a horrendous year! I mean, we both had our cars nicked that year. I had a laptop go missing as well. It was awful. But we were coming back one night, and my flatmate at the time, Jamie, he had one of these RX-8s.
yeah.
And he said, I can drive it if you want. So I said, yeah, quality. And there was something funny about the clutch. I couldn't quite get used to it. And we're pulling in, we're coming up to the gate, and you had to kind of lean out the car, punch in the code, which I remember was Christmas Day, 2512. And,
that's the code for every single communal gate, isn't it?
Yeah, Christmas. If you're in doubt, robbers out there, Christmas.
Yeah.
And any case, as I've swung in, I've seen this guy. He's wheeling a settee across the street, and he has got a humongous knife in his hand. It is absolutely huge. And I've looked at this guy.
I was wondering what you were going to say.
yeah. No, it was
the hustler's back.
No, I saw the shine, and I was like, bloody hell! I think he's got a knife, Jamie, mate. And he was like, no, he hasn't. So in any case, I've hanging out of this car trying to punch in Christmas Day on the code, and I've stalled the car. And my friend Jamie has just lost it completely. Get that car going again. I was like, all right, mate, calm down. What's your problem? He said, he has got a knife. And basically this guy, we were chatting to him about 3 days later. He'd found out basically his wife had been seeing someone else, and he'd walked into him on the sofa. So he was carting the sofa outside to try and burn it, and then he was going to run after this bloke with a knife. But in the meantime, we've come around with this RX-5 with the clutch slipping, and it's just like, oh my god, we thought we were going to get butchered. But,
because you can't drive a rotary.
Yeah, literally. So I've forgotten about that. But that was the anecdote that come back. Sorry to jump in. Yeah,
it's amazing what gets sparked off story wise, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Inanimate
all comes
objects.
back to cars, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes back to cars.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You must have missed a few. I mean, there must be. I think, God, there's so many things I see where I think, yeah, I quite fancy that.
I still would like a Cavalier GSI.
Really, if you can find one.
Yeah, well, this was so when I got my first proper job, if you like, out of uni, I dearly wanted a Cavalier GSI. And I couldn't find one that hadn't been butchered at the time. So I ended up with a Vectra GSI, which was basically the replacement of it. But even to this day, I think if I could find a Cavalier GSI 2000 4x4 or a Cavalier Turbo 4x4 that was still original, I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
Wow.
So we'll all have to keep on the lookout for one.
Yeah.
For Phil,
Triumph Dolomite Sprint or a Cavalier GSI Turbo. It just, again, it goes back to that touring car.
Yeah.
You'd see them coming round.
Yeah.
They're low on the front.
That reminds me of company cars of sort of it had been early 90s, and Cavalier SRI was one of the ones. A Citroen BX. So not ones that I had, but they were like the company pool cars.
Yeah.
That used to get absolutely ragged the shit out. They really did.
Well, so my dad used to occasionally bring one home from work because I think their MD had a GSI 4x4, and they were just perfect. It looked like a touring car. It sat low, but inside you've got all this like faux mahogany trim, the bucket seats, with the with the wings that would always rub really badly. It had an onboard computer that just made the dash look like a spaceship, as far as I'm concerned. And it was just like the sexiest thing I'd ever seen at that point.
Right. That Phil's got his guilty pleasure. There it is. I think he's just about to.
It would probably now be the ultimate disappointment to drive.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
I think that's the car you need to keep as a guilty pleasure and never buy, because I think you'd buy it and be like, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah. Well, my friend said that about. I was flirted with the idea of getting a E36 M3 at one point.
Yeah.
Because again, I remember seeing, it was an aspirational thing. I remember seeing it's not Imola blue, is it? It's whatever the sort of sky blue metallic colour that the press launch car was in. And there was
blue.
No, that was an E46 colour.
Ah, right.
Check out the XM3 boy over there.
But I remember seeing a cover of Auto Car magazine, and this guy just, and he had sunglasses on. He was obviously white shirt, sunglasses, coming around sideways.
The car that did it for you.
Yeah.
It was the car. But I just thought, that basically that marketing just worked on me at that point.
You're a marketeer's dream, aren't you?
I
think that's what we've
I'm the
learned
guy
tonight.
that, when you're going up to the checkouts at Sainsbury's and they've put all the chocolate and stuff like that, I'm like, fall
Doubled
for
your
that.
buy in the last aisle.
Fall for that every time. But my friend said to me, honestly, if you've driven, like, I think, because I was just coming out of an E92 compact at that point. He said, if you buy one of those, it will smash your illusion of that car. So just enjoy the pictures and just don't go near it. So
They were so different, weren't they? That E36 from the E30 before it,
yeah.
and it just looked so modern at the time with that little front overhang, and just the lines were so new compared to what it had been before.
I think, I mean, I've seen a couple come up on cutters that. The 4-door version of it, in sort of like a metallic British racing green. I can't remember the what's that?
Oh, I don't know the colour. I'm afraid.
It's not forest green, is it? We'll find it. Anyway, but I mean, and then I think they did a GT version of it, which is super rare. I mean, I would have one of those, not to drive it, but just to look at it. Yeah, to be honest.
I'll tell you what. I genuinely do actually have a little look for on normally on like eBay or somewhere every few months. I've always really wanted. At some point, I need to get out of my system. I think is a Hummer.
Oh yeah.
See, that is.
Like is it the H2 Hummer? So not the really early one, the one in between. And it just again, I think my very first job, a guy turned up with one of these Hummers and never even seen one in the flesh, and it was just the biggest, most awesome thing. It was probably the most expensive car at the time I'd ever actually stood next to, let alone touched. And I remember looking at this thing thinking it was just crazy. And it reminded me of a monster truck. But again,
they're not actually that high, are they? They're actually quite low.
Yeah, they're not. They're not that high, but they are tall because they're like the bottom bit's not that high, but it's they are pretty big. But they are big in every way.
Yeah.
But I really do. And again, they're not loads of money, so you can go. You probably get them for about 15 grand.
Well, I think most of them have been chopped in half now and turned into like limos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did have a Wrangler. I had a JK, the 4-door one, which was raised up.
Yeah, that's
big
cool.
bull bar on the front.
Yeah,
that was proper cool actually.
Yeah.
But I did feel a bit of a bit girly on their Wranglers, but I enjoyed it.
We should wrap up the pod because we're sitting outside, aren't we, to adhere to Boris's social distancing rules, and we're getting bitten to bugger. So we should. We've got 10 questions, haven't we, for Phil, as we always do with our guests on Road to Redline.
Just grab those.
Excellent.
Phil, we know you listen to the pod, so thank you for that first of all. But you know the drill, didn't you? It's quick fire.
I do. I'm frantically trying to remember the questions now.
Yeah, it's quick fire.
If you have to think about it, it's the wrong answer.
Well, I also know I'm about to offend 2 of you.
Here we go. Right. So, Phil, are you ready?
I am.
Excellent. Right. Question number 1: air or water?
Water.
Question number 2: favourite Porsche colour?
Carmine red.
Number 3: favourite Porsche icon?
Andreas Prüdiger.
Okay, I've done this in a weird order. No idea why. Number 2: favourite Porsche model?
991.1 GTS.
Well played.
That's in the garage tomorrow. Number 5: favourite track?
Brands Hatch.
Choice.
Not a track I've ever driven, actually. It's
a great one to watch.
It was actually the Festival of Porsche a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And they had the 919 Evo there.
Nick Tandy was driving it, wasn't he? Yeah.
And they had the Cup car following it round, and that was seeing those two was just a life-changing experience. And I remember actually the 919. It's not particularly long track, is it? So I think its battery was failing because it wasn't having enough time to wind up. So it sort of came out, and then it was a bit of a poodle round. And I don't know who sorted it out, but I believe they took it back into the pits, spent all day on it, reprogrammed it, and it came out again at the end of the day, and it absolutely belted it round. And it's just something about being that close to that.
Get the car there and drive it. That's the next one, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why you get Porsche Club GB insurance, isn't it?
Too right. Right, question number 6. Tafouche or not Tafouche?
Not.
7. Stock or hot rod?
Stock.
Number 8. Narrow or wide body?
Oh, I think we've been through this wide.
yeah.
Number 9. Cars and coffee or a track day?
Probably cars and coffee, if I'm honest. And food.
And food.
Yeah, coffee and food. Yeah.
And last but not least, number 10. Back seats or to no back seats?
Don't care. They never get used anyway, do they?
Quality. Before we wrap up, we have got one short question because we are getting a bit buggery. But you are a real foodie, and it seems wherever we go on a drive, whether it's in the locale or nationally, you know where to stop. So for everybody that's listening to Road to Redline, give us a place where perhaps people should do a Sunday morning convoy out to for either a bit of breakfast or lunch or brunch.
Don't give away the favourite, though.
Well, this is
I want everybody going there.
Oh, the new favourite.
Well, I don't know what your favourite is, but you need to be a little bit careful.
Well, I think it's well known now, but Molly's
off the A34.
Yeah, we've had some terrific meals there, haven't we?
Yeah.
Twice in one day, I think.
Yeah, and also I think the bit of a shout out, the Caffeine and Machine place. I mean,
I've never been.
Oh, we'll have to go up. I mean, it's mega. I think it runs the risk of being a bit of a victim of its own success. But I remember when I picked the GT3 up, Tris, the guy that sold it me, knows Phil McGovern, the guy that owns it there with his family, I think. And just what they're trying to create there is pretty special, really, because it doesn't matter whether you're rocking up in a new GT2 RS or one of Andy's Opel Manta. The idea is it's not about the size of your wallet or how much you're prepared to open it. More like it's just like we've all got a shared passion.
Yeah.
But everything they do there, they knock out the park. The food's fantastic. The location's fantastic. Even the people there. I mean, I think it's it's right in the middle. I wish we had one further down here, really. But they'd be the two places if you're going to take your car and
No, excellent. Well, we've tried to get you on here for weeks now, Phil. You've run out of excuses. But it's our pleasure to have you on Road to Redline.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, Phil.